Hello and welcome back to my perpetual torment. Nijisanji has released another wave of VTubers, and you know what that means. Another clip of me thirsting after a PNG. Oh, and some lore, I guess. At this point, you should know the rules, and if you don't, I got great news for you. Here's a bunch of videos that'll tell you and get you caught up on the story thus far. Thus, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. Let's start by discussing XSOLEIL as a school and concept. One point I've kind of ignored up until now is the fact that Nijisanji waves come as opposites, usually using light and dark as motifs. Lazulite and Obsidia with Diamond City Lights versus Blackout, Etheria being mirrored in itself with 2 members from Heaven and 2 from Hell, and Luxium being from the past with Noctix being from the future. Actually, they went extra hard for those last 2 because they even mirrored color schemes to match the proposed rivalries in their characters. A cop versus a mafioso, a phantom thief versus an ace detective, a sorcerer and a psychic, a super future cyborg versus an ancient demon, and an author with a DJ. But I digress. We're here to talk about the newest opposite to Illuna's bright daytime but moon motif magic academy, XSOLEIL, a sci-fi superpowered academy with a solar name but a dark atmosphere. Now there's one other big point about XSOLEIL that I'd be remiss not to mention, but naturally, I'm going to save that revelation for the ending, because that's how all these videos end. I'm a formula now. Before we start, I would like to say thank you to XSOLEIL for making this the easiest video so far. Everything is clearly connected, makes sense, and some are even written by the same team. Thank God! First up, we've got Zion Lanza, the highest infinity. A first year from the future, here to stop an apocalypse caused by an ancient alien technology awakening from inside the moon. Wait, I swear I've heard that one before. Whatever. Either way, Zion is informed that the world is inhabited by others with special abilities like hers, and is then taken in by her great-great-grandfather, who so happens to be the headmaster of XSOLEIL and is working to prevent the apocalypse Zion is trying to stop. Otherwise, Zion's power is called dimensional diffusion, which allows her to bring back technology from her future. Additionally, she's the student council's treasurer, and has a based taste in ice cream flavors. Up next comes Doppio Dropscythe, aka the Duke of Discipline, aka the Hall Monitor. We see that Doppio is a bit of a problem child. He hates school, keeps getting in trouble, and is often chewed out by his father for his behavior. One night, after getting yelled at, Doppio goes out for a late-night walk and incidentally punches a speeding car into a dead halt. After being arrested for this, Doppio is met by a mysterious man wearing very similar clothing to Zion's ancestor. After putting Doppio's situation into perspective, he offers Doppio a deal. Freedom, in exchange for enrolling in his institute to use his powers for something good. Sure enough, Doppio finds a new start amongst his fellow student council members and even ends up taking on the role of a rules enforcer. Also of note, his superpower is called Double Drops, which allows him to punch back with twice the power of his opponent. He's the tallest member of Nijisanji EN, and he lives in an arcade's basement's ball pit. Also, he's the only one who actually names the city, calling it XSOLEIL City. He implies that there's still more to his story than we've seen by pointing out his nail color and the rings around his neck. And it's pretty cute how he spends part of his debut just sharing his favorite things about each other member. I love it. I love that positivity. That's great. Finally, banger Oshi mark. Nothing more punk rock than that chick. Moving on, we've got Melako.
Are you the naughty one?
Melako Kyoran starts with the story of how she comes from a long line of exorcists and how this led to her having a very strict and stifling childhood devoid of fun. Eventually, she was cast from her family, and all her efforts to please them had been in vain. With no place left to go, a spirit tempted her into crossing that road into the place where all your dreams come true. Luckily for Melako, she ended up washing ashore and being rescued by the headmaster of XSOLEIL. She was given a second chance at life as part of the student council, helping those in this ruined city. Melako is the event coordinator for the council and arrived in XSOLEIL City a year ago from Japan to isekai overseas, hence why she's still learning English, but also firmly sets XSOLEIL in a country other than Japan. Which country this is not clear. And,
dislikes, bruh.
I may have a problem.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I definitely have a problem. Let's try and move along quickly. But hey, we should be safe with Hex Haywire, right?
You can't see clearly at all, my darling.
Oh no, he's hot!
For someone who has appeared in 2/3 of the other 3 debuts, Hex's story focuses much more on his personal struggles than the overall continuity. We see him rescuing a young girl from a burning house. However, we are shown that this is a metaphor for the choking pain of trauma, and that Hex's power is to take away that trauma at the cost of him carrying that grief with him. But as he carries that burden, he's finally found a place in XSOLEIL, and now uses his power to help those in XSOLEIL City, alongside the rest of the student council, as the Sage of Grief.
I can fix you.
Good fucking luck. Also, he likes horror, and specifically survival horror, so he's cool. And low-key may be my favorite for it. But there's one point that I feel I kind of need to talk about from an ethical standpoint. I would like to preempt this by saying this is not me trying to say that Hex is a bad person or that I don't like him. Clearly, I do like him. It is just a matter of who I am and what I've studied and what I do that makes me feel like I need to say this. Hex Haywire is not your therapist. Now, I know most of you will understand that is just his character, and this feels pointless. But as a streamer and content creator who is friends with a lot of other streamers and content creators, I know for a fact that a lot of people already treat us like therapists. Also, as somebody with a degree in psychology who has a vested interest in parasocial relationships, I feel like it is very necessary to remind you that that is his character. He is not really your therapist. One of the first things you learn in a clinical psych class is that you are not a therapist, and you really shouldn't say so unless you are a licensed professional. Again, this is not me saying that Hex did something bad, it's his character. That's fine. But when it comes to the interactions between you and him, do not trauma dump on him. Do not go to him with all your grief and pain. He is a streamer. He is not your therapist. Likewise, anything he tells you, I tell you, any streamer tells you, you cannot and should not take as anything more than the advice of a stranger on the internet. It might be great advice. I like to think I give pretty good advice. I've even helped many people in situations like what Hex presents in his lore video. But I will tell you what I always tell them, I am not a therapist. And if you feel like you truly need that level of help, you should seek a medical professional. I am not your therapist. I'm a guy who talks about titty anime and VTubers on the internet. Hex is not your therapist. He is a man playing a character for an idol company. No streamer is your therapist. But again, I do really like Hex. I think it's absolutely fine that this is his character, and I'm well aware that it's the kind of thing that most people wouldn't be aware is a problem. Hex, if you happen to see this, you're still amazing, King. Let's talk about some survival horror sometime. I have no friends who like those, so I really need to talk to somebody about it. And don't worry, that lore video and title and thumbnail is not going unappreciated, and neither is the Burning House reference. I knew I had seen it somewhere. And I'm with you, I got you, that was incredible. Okay, enough serious talk. Who do we have next? Can you tell I have a type yet? Knowing my luck, both of them will see this too. Fucking first Nina, and then Scarl, and this is gonna suck, ain't it? This is what I do for you all. I embarrass myself in front of VTubers for your entertainment. Are you happy? Fuck. After forcing me to face an extreme moral quandary, Gotoka shows off her backstory and expresses the pain she's felt throughout her life as the power to become anyone leads to a question of who you really are and if anyone cares for that true self. Thankfully, she finds someone who sees her for who she is and what her powers could really achieve. The headmaster. Yo! Yo! Creepy nuts? Based. Pineapple pizza? Based. Whole thing, just based. Except for the 2-day-old burger part. That's fucked up. Wait, collaborate with a lot of VTubers and creators? I'm just saying. Anytime. Other than some incredible taste, there's not really much else to discuss here lore-wise, so let's move on before I find myself staring at the pretty Gyaru for several more hours. Fair Vermilion gives us the only lore video that actually shows us what it is XSOLEIL's council does. And interestingly, it raises a fair amount of questions about the nature of their work. But first, the actual events. Vare is sent on a solo mission to save a client's daughter from a group of thugs. After handily taking them all down, Vare discovers the girl's soul is marred by pain and strife and signals a terrible destiny. Taking pity on her, he uses his power to cleanse her soul and change her destiny. This power is known as Anima Veritas and allows him to see a person's future by controlling the flames of their soul. This possibly implies that he didn't directly change the girl's soul, but did so indirectly by simply saving her and being kind. The rest of the debut didn't have much else, but yes, I'd love to duel you, Vare. Anyways, back to that interesting point I mentioned. Zion tells Vare that he's saving the daughter of a client, one who is apparently quite the VIP. Up until this point, it's sort of implied that the council is operating more as a benevolent force for good. Vigilantes trying to clean up the mean streets of XSOLEIL City. However, this terminology implies that the council may be closer to a set of heroes for hire. It's not too far-fetched either. The headmaster even says that he's part of the societal elite, the kind of people with the money to hire a team of superpowered individuals. I'm not saying that they don't do good, but perhaps the order in which they do that good may be influenced by more than just their sense of justice. And honestly, get that bag. Absolutely no judgment from me. If anyone understands selling out, it's the guy making his 8th VTuber video of the year. Speaking of, it's time for the big reveal part of the video. Attentive longtime viewers may have noticed a few words and terms were missing from the rest of this script. Most noticeably, no mentions of Virtual Neverland or anything digital. Well, that's because XSOLEIL City is in our world. Yes, much like Noctix, the story of XSOLEIL never once mentions anything digital or shows any of the typical iconography that we've come to associate with Virtual Neverland and Heaven. And by that I just mean the Nijisanji logo. In fact, their debut song even explicitly states in the chorus, "This is not on the screens." All this is going down in our timeline. If we want to use Noctix as the precedent, it's easy to believe that their coming back led to Zion's future in the same way they led to each other's. Melako firmly states she lived in Japan, and Zion says she lived in what was once Japan. Ironically, despite Doppio's lore being all in Japanese, we can actually prove that Doppio isn't in Japan. The biggest tells are how the speeding driver is on the left side of his car and driving on the right side of the road, and how this cop's uniform very clearly mirrors the American style. Also, he says he's not fluent in Japanese, and that'd be surprising for someone from Japan. It's not entirely made clear where the other 3 members are from, but we do know that Kotoka is American and Japanese, and Vare can speak Korean. Why am I bothering to talk about this? Well, it's to try and figure out where the hell XSOLEIL City is. We know that it's not Japan, given that Zion arrives there driving on the wrong side of the road, and Melako says that she went overseas from Japan. It could be America, but the uniquely Japanese-style school building and student council imply otherwise. But what if, just maybe, I lied about the big reveal earlier? In a sense, at least. What if I had lied about it being firmly in our world, and about that being the reveal? What if XSOLEIL is a city of lost souls? We can consider this in both metaphorical and literal terms. We can see each member, barring Vare, is stuck in a horrible situation that's left them alone and in pain, but each one is suddenly invited by XSOLEIL's headmaster to join a mysterious school where they can find a new family and a new life. But if you look at many of these stories, there's an interesting through line that preempts several of these meetings. Near-death experiences. Zion is teleported back right before the moon takes her life. Doppio's power kicks in after jumping in front of a speeding car. Melako washes ashore after a spirit guides her to cross a spiritual road to a place where all her dreams may come true. But as that same spirit warns, you never know where you may end up. The implication is heaven or the afterlife. But for Melako, it's XSOLEIL. If you'd like to take that idea to its more natural conclusion with a man who bears the trauma of countless individuals and a woman who suffers from an extreme lack of self-identity, well, I don't really want to do that because having Melako imply it was more than enough. Instead, let's just keep it more metaphorical and say that there's a place where time has stood still. A place where the hurt and the lost are drawn to, where the vulnerable are easily exploited, and where pain has led a city to ruins. A city with no sun. A city XSOLEIL. In that place, there's a school, frozen in time just like its surroundings, that harbors a hope for those lost in the expansive concrete maze. The Institute of Infinity XSOLEIL Academy. As always, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you, XSOLEIL, for being incredible. I am excited to see where the future takes you. Honestly, more than any of the other bits that I've done, Hex, please, I seriously need someone to talk to about survival horror games. That one's not a bit. Please feel free to like, comment, subscribe. You know all the YouTube things. Links are down below. Twitter at SteveSekai, twitch.tv/SteveSekai, patreon.com/SteveSekai. Channel memberships are open. Bye.